This is African American History is American History.
Thurgood Marshall, the first Negro to serve on the United States Supreme Court, puts on his robes with the assistance of his wife. President Johnson named Marshall to replace Justice Tom Clark, who retired. Justice Marshall, the great-grandson of a slave, swore to do equal right to the poor and to the rich as the Supreme Court opened its 178th term.
Justice Thurgood Marshall's legal philosophy was one of fairness and practicality, and he often drew on his real-world experience.
A Pullman porter once told me that he had never been any place in the United States where he did not have to put his hand up in front of his face to discover he was a black man. I'm afraid the porter's experience is still true. But there is a price to be paid for division and isolation, as recent events in California indicate. Look around. Can't you see the tension in Watts? Can't you feel the fear in Scarsdale? Can't you sense the alienation in Simi Valley, the despair in the South Bronx, the rage in Brooklyn? We cannot play ostrich. Democracy just cannot flourish amid fear. Liberty cannot bloom amid hate. Justice cannot take root amid rage. America must get to work. In the chill climate in which we live, we must go against the prevailing wind. We must dissent from the indifference. We must dissent from the apathy. We must dissent from the fear, the hatred, and the mistrust. We must dissent from a nation that has buried its head in the sand, waiting in vain for the needs of its poor, its elderly, and its sick to disappear and just blow away. We must dissent from a government that has left its young without jobs, education, or hope.
In contrast to his direct successor, Clarence Thomas, Marshall was a staunch liberal who frequently dissented as the court became increasingly conservative. In 2023, the Center for American Progress called Clarence Thomas, quote, the anti-Thurgood Marshall, end quote.
This is African American History is American History.
Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, both the first woman nominated and the first confirmed to the Supreme Court, served with Marshall on the court for a decade. She wrote of him,
"It was rare during our conference deliberations that he would not share an anecdote, a joke, or a story, although I initially treated these stories as welcome diversions. I later realized that behind most of the anecdotes was a relevant legal point."
In 1999, a survey of black political scientists listed Marshall as one of the 10 greatest African-American leaders in history. Thurgood Marshall has been described by many as, quote, the greatest jurist of the 20th century, end quote.
This has been African American History is American History. African American History is American History. Copyright H.C. Kearsley, 2025.